All right, we're going to be discussing about chlorinating your well today. So you may have had your water tested and it came back with bacteria. So what we're going to describe today is going to be just about coliform bacteria. It's a very simple project to handle, and it's a very common cause and generally fairly easy to fix. Now the one thing is, if you had E. coli come back in there, then that's a red flag. That's a completely different topic to talk about. And so that you definitely know what to call a local expert to come in and deal with that and figure out why you had E. coli. So here we're going to talk about coliform. So when we show up to chlorinate your well, for one, we have to find it. So we have to locate the well. Some wells stick up out of the ground, like you may see in this picture or this picture. Those are the easy ones. Sometimes they're in a well pit that is covered up and you can't find it, so it's a little tougher. So you have to get over that. So locate well. And then we'll do something like we'll fill a pail with water before we shut the well pump off. We're going to turn the power off to the well pump, remove the cap, and so this would be a proper well cap that you would see. That this particular style is rodent and insect proof, unlike this one you see way over here where it was broken and somebody's covered it with a pail, and we actually found mice in that particular well. So once we remove the well cap, we can pour in our Clorox that we buy right from the grocery store, and we can pour it down there. We also use chlorine tablets. So these are a few of the tablets that we use. These are great. So now they'll fall to the bottom of the well and they dissolve in about 10 minutes. And so now you're attacking the well, chlorinating it from the bottom where the tablets fall down to, and the liquid from the top. So you're getting it both top and bottom. So if the pH in the water is high, so like above 7, on a scale of 1 through 14, 7 being neutral. If it's a base, then we'll add white vinegar or something to lower the pH. Chlorine at a low pH is a bactericide. At a high pH, it is an oxidizer. So the more chlorine you put in, it actually raises the pH of the water, making itself less effective at killing bacteria. So if you don't know this, you're going to put a lot of chlorine in and you're not going to really get anywhere. So we'll add vinegar, chlorine, and the vinegar we use is just from the pickle aisle at the store. So you go to the one aisle, pick up your Clorox, the other one, the pickle aisle, grab the white vinegar. So what we basically use are chlorine tablets. Once we add that in, we'll take a pail of that water that we got initially, and we'll put some chlorine in there, and then pour it down the well. Generally, we're chasing cobwebs like you would see in a wellhead like this down the well. So basically, clean it and flush it out. Then we'll go inside the home, and we'll start a hose running from somewhere outside, spigot, from the bottom of the tank, whatever is the convenient, and begin to run the water. So we're going to want to run the water until we get chlorine coming out of the garden hose. So once we have that chlorine coming out of the garden hose, and it usually takes probably about 30 minutes for that to happen. By the time the tablets dissolve and the liquid kind of makes its way down to the well pump, then we know that we have now the total volume of the well with the proper amount of chlorine in there. The water is going into the house, it's chlorinated, and the holding tank has chlorine in there. So usually we'll bring with us some litmus tabs to identify that there's a proper amount of chlorine in the water. So that's when our job is done. And then a lot of times too, we'll put a new well cap on, just like you would see here, generally what we do, and not leave it like it would be like this, or if it's in a well pit, these are other discussions that you're gonna have to have, because these are chronic problems with getting coliform in the water. So you want to fix these issues before you bother trying to chlorinate the well. All right, so once we have the chlorine come out of the garden hose, then we want what we call contact time. So you want to run all the water in the house, every fixture, hot, cold, showers, toilets, flush them, any outside spigot, ice makers, anything that consumes and uses water, you have to run it for a few minutes to get that chlorinated water through there. So then once you do that with the contact time, for coliform, generally 6 to 8 hours is more than sufficient to allow that chlorine in there to kill the bacteria. After that, 6 or 8 hours, and of course you can let it go longer. So if we did it during the day, and you have to come back the next day to flush the system, that would be fine. So after that 6 to 8 hours, you want to flush the system and simply take the hose, like where we had run it initially, to get the chlorine up into the system from the well, and you can flush it from there. So you want to run that hose basically until you can't smell or taste the chlorine. If you have the litmus paper, that works really well to be able to tell that there's no chlorine left. So most of the time I tell people to run a well a half hour on, a half hour off. Now the reason why is I don't know how much water is in the well, and I don't want you to run the well, quote, dry. Not that it's permanently dry, but you don't want to run the well pump dry. So by pumping it for 1/2 hour on, and then 1/2 hour off, that allows the well time to recover. Now, if you have a well where you know you've run the garden hose to sprinkle the lawn for hours on end and never had a problem, then this isn't such a big deal. You can probably just run the water directly for a couple hours. So now, it may take an hour running to flush the system, or it may take several days, and anywhere in between. So it all depends on water quality of the well depth, well yield, and a couple other things to make the difference on how long you need to run it for. But suspect that it's going to be a minimum of a couple hours worth of runtime. And again, worst case scenario, up to actually take a couple of days to get all the chlorine out of there. So after you do that, once you flush the chlorine out, you can flush it out of the fixtures. Then you can call your local licensed lab, certified lab, to come and take a sample from there. Now, if I was purchasing the house, I would want to wait like a week or so after the chlorination, just to see if it's a habitual problem, to see if the bacteria repopulates itself. Then that's when I would do it for myself. So those are just the basics. Thanks.